Hello, everybody, and welcome to another late night podcast with NikoTheLegend, aka Nicholas Sorokin, and the time is 12:06 a.m., 9/6/2016. Yep, it's been quite a bit sometimes since I made the last podcast. Sorry, well, for many reasons. For one, life. I got a new job at this resort place, and I'm a greeter for it, and I've been doing this orientation business and all that. So you know how long that takes. I could take a certain amount of days. I've been moving to a new place, not too far from where I used to live, and so a lot of things have been going on to where I haven't been able to properly use my computer or had the time to sit down and do this, even though I'm just talking. But at the same time, it's stressful to go through the orientation process and wearing a uniform and this and that. And now I'm happily able to do this. And yeah, that's why I've been gone for a while. So this podcast will be discussing the topic of our open world RPGs, bad or good. And, we'll discuss that and so on and so forth. Before we get started, I'd just like to give you guys a few, cool things going on. They announced a Witcher Game of the Year edition, which has all the content, all the DLC, which is great. So you should definitely pick that up because it's like $40. Same thing with Metal Gear Solid 5 coming out with the definitive edition, or whatever you want to call it. It has Ground Zeroes and Phantom Pain plus all the online DLC. So two great packages coming right at you. It's just fantastic. And the BioShock collection, which should be coming out soon. So we got a lot of these old games and new games coming together with these big packages, and more bang for your buck, right? So I hope you guys like those games. If not, you should definitely check them out. They're really fun and great, and the developers spent a lot of time on these games. And if you're not going to buy that, well, I hope you're enjoying the PAX West 2016 convention going on. All you cosplayers look fantastic, so I appreciate you guys doing that. You guys are amazing. How much time and dedication you put into your cosplay. And I'm hoping you guys are having a fun time. And for people who are watching it, I hope you're having a good old fun being entertained. So without further ado, we'll talk about our open world RPGs, bad or good. Okay, so open world RPGs. Oof, such a grand topic to be talking about something like this, something so big and vast and just full of possibilities and just endless possibilities. Actually, let's just say it flat out like that. And what makes an open world an RPG? Well, I mean, if you guys played open world RPGs, you know right from the get-go, it's that freedom to do, and to go wherever you damn well please, where you can take your fucking time. And a lot of RPGs and developers have been doing that. They've been turning it into this open world, formula. And I guess because it's that time, right? It's next gen time or whatever. It's this generation of consoles allows that enough memory to be used to provide such an expansive and immersive experience. Just so many options for you to do, and you can take your time and just enjoy the beauty of it. And feel like you're really in this world and it's not so linear. They want to take that linear aspect out of the game, although obviously some things you do in the game do have a linear aspect to them. Just depends on what you're doing and the mission or something, or the quest. But the overall aspect of it's open world. So yeah, we'll talk about that, or we're talking about it now, but we'll go into further emphasis on that, and we'll go into the past a little bit, talking about when games weren't open RPG, they were more linear. And so let's just name a few open world RPGs that did this formula. Well, open world formula, I'm sorry. Well, for one, we all know the massive RPG giant of the Elder Scrolls series, which was one of the first role-playing games out there to go open world, and it's always been open world, And I mean, since Morrowind and was Daggerfall one of them, and Arena? No, Arena wasn't one. I don't think. I haven't played the first two, but I played it ever since Morrowind. And Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim, and all those games have been open world. So we've gotten a glimpse of it, of what a game is capable of being as an open world game. And it was fun, it was immersive, it was an experience, and you felt like you were really involved in that universe, in that that character you made. And at the time, it was one of the only few series of games that actually was open world. Like, it definitely stemmed away from the linear aspect and gave you that freedom, that ultimate freedom. Nowadays, we see a lot more open world games like Witcher 3, which used to be pretty linear when Witcher 2 was out. It's very more story driven, as in, like, the quests were definitely more story driven and more of a linear aspect. I mean, you would go to areas to area to another area to another area, but all in all, it wasn't as open world as Witcher 3. Witcher 3 is just completely open world. It's just, just step out and you just see all the environment, the mountain range, the forests, creatures, you feel the ambience, and your character's just standing in the middle of this giant world, and you're just embracing it, and it's amazing. It's really amazing on what Witcher 3 has done, and they're doing that with Final Fantasy 15. They're making an open world, which would be the first open world Final Fantasy game. And Final Fantasy, talking about comparing old linear to open world, Final Fantasy is the franchise that is based on linear gameplay, like, completely, and they've been doing it for such a long time. And the most linear entry was Final Fantasy 13, which was garbage. I'm sorry, it was just really bad. But that's my opinion. So if you have any opinions about it, leave your comments below. But nonetheless, Final Fantasy 13 was more linear than any other Final Fantasy game. And JonTron made a video called Final Hallway talking about Final Fantasy 13. So watch that off the JonTron Show channel, and you'll understand what I'm saying. But yeah, I mean, now Square Enix has gone to open world, because it's a role-playing game, and the best way to show off your world is to make it open world. So you can do in Elder Scrolls or Witcher, you have the power to take your time and do what you really want to fucking do in the game. You see a tree in the distance, you can go to that fucking tree. You want to cross this river, you cross the river. You want to ride this chocobo across this huge landmass or whatever with all these exotic monsters there that you need to fight. You can do that. Or you can just take your car with your homies, your bros in the game, because the game starts you with your 3 or 4 best guy friends and stuff. And that was so controversial because when it's an all guy party, it's bad, but when you're like the new Ghostbusters and have all women, it's fine. Stupid shit like that. So anyway, so yeah, Final Fantasy 15 is doing that, and then they're re-releasing Skyrim Special Edition, and that's open world. I know there's a couple more. Oh, Dragon Age Inquisition, which came out a couple of years ago, or almost a couple of years ago. That was the first open world Dragon Age, and that was just amazing. Like, it was just, oh my god, it was incredible to see that game, and it's just so in depth and into the level creation, the way it looks, the very different variations of levels, and it's just like each one was just so memorable, and you felt like you were really a part of it. And they were just like Final Fantasy was. Like, their game was pretty linear too. I'd say Dragon Age 2 was pretty linear because you were in one town the whole time, besides going to like a few different areas outside of town. But I didn't mind that. I was one of the few people that enjoyed Dragon Age 2. So you can smite me all you want, but I thought they did a great job, even though I know it was EA who rushed the fuck out of them, and it was underdeveloped game. But at the same time, I liked it. I thought it had a great story and everything. I loved the characters and gameplay. But everyone liked Dragon Age 1 because, how you created your character, and you had this map to where you pick where you want to go. And that was still linear in a way because, well, when you got to the place, to the destination, you had to go like one way, back or forward. And that was in every place you went to in Dragon Age Origins. But in Dragon Age Inquisition, it's the same thing. You had a map, you pick where you want to go. You had that freedom of choice, which was really great. So that was like an aspect they kept from Dragon Age 1 that they transferred over. But when you went to an environment in the game of Dragon Age Inquisition, it was just completely vast and open. Just everything was at your disposals. It's like there's just so many beautiful vistas and just great memories. And when I first played Dragon Age Inquisition, I remember that there was like this 6-hour trial that I downloaded off the Xbox Live Store Marketplace, and I was literally spending my time in the first area in the hinterlands once you get past the prologue, and I was 6 hours just gone, just completely gone by. And now, after I played the whole game and I understood what the game was like, I've well over 100 hours, like well over, just so easily over that, and how many different characters I made and stuff. And there are people that reviewed the game and they thought it was too much, like it was too long of a game, too much to explore. But it's like we talked about as we got older, before that, when we were kids, we wanted to have games that vast and that expansive. We wanted an open world game to where we can just go anywhere and not have to worry about this one path that we can only take. Nowadays we can just take all these different types of fucking paths. The choice was yours. And nowadays people think it's a bad thing because they don't have enough time or something. But it's like when people play those games, or thinking of those games, they think they have to sit down and play the whole game in one sitting. I'm like, no. You take your fucking time in open world games. There's no rush. You don't have to beat the fucking game in one night like a lot of people do. Like that one player who got to the max level in Legion. Yeah, that was fucking crazy. But we won't talk about that. But no, you take your fucking time. Just like in Witcher and Final Fantasy 15, you're gonna take your fucking time. And same with all the Elder Scrolls games. You're taking your time. There's no rush. No one's telling you to do this or that. And if they do, that's it. They don't like hold your hand and walk you there. They're like, okay, fucking go do this mission however you want it. You can go to this mission from jumping off a mountain, or swimming to it, or riding a dragon, or you know what I'm saying? It's like you had all those options. But it goes back to the top. What we're really talking about is like, are open world RPGs good or bad? Well, it's a combination of both, because on one hand you have the freedom to do take your time, go wherever you want, spend as much time as you want. You're not forced to beat the game. You're not rushed. But on the other hand, you spend too much time exploring and doing everything. You'll never beat the game. And maybe some people don't want to beat the game because they don't want to ever see the game actually have a conclusion. I mean, it all depends on the players, right? So we'll take me, for example. When I was playing Skyrim, I played it nonstop, like for long periods of time, because it was such an amazing game. Like, oh my god, I'll never forget my first time playing. And let's just say I didn't do the main mission until like 50 or 40 hours into it, because I was just like 40 to 50 hours isn't that long for that type of game. But I always thought I played it longer, but I believing I played well over 100 hours. So I don't know. It was weird, but I was just I finally got to a point where I want to play the main quest finally. I'm gonna do it. I just want to see if I can finally see the storyline. And if something like that happens, a lot of people don't like that, because they want the game to still have a purpose. It's like, why are we playing it? It's like, what is the main purpose of this game? And open world RPGs tend to get a little foggy on that aspect, because no one's making you do anything in that game besides you watching a cutscene or hearing someone have dialogue. But other than that, it's really up to you. But you can consider it, open world RPGs, a big responsibility to play. And that may sound silly when you're playing games, but the fact of the matter is, it's like it's really your experience when it comes to open world things and RPGs. You play it however you want it. if you are not responsible enough to get to the end of the game, that's not the game's fault. That's just your fucking fault. If you can't stay focused on the task at hand and balance the shit out, you don't know how to play those games. You should, instead of being like, IGN and reviewing Dragon Age saying it was too long, you just didn't know how to play the game properly. You didn't know what pacing was, and they had to review the game, so they had to rush it, and that's probably why they thought it was too long, because time constraints. They had to get it done, the review out in a certain time. So that was that guy's problem. But for your problem, if you have all the time in the world and you're just sitting at home drinking your Mountain Dew and eating your Cheetos, and you're not working, maybe it still would bother you, but at the same time, it probably shouldn't, because you have that free time. And I played Skyrim when I was working at my job. I worked 80 hours for 2 weeks, and I was still able to make time for all my passions and video games and stuff. It didn't fucking bother me, because I was like I said, this is when Skyrim came out. I was playing the fuck out of that game. I really was, and and just that's how it is. It's a big responsibility. Now, we're talking about old school role playing games, the more linear versions, like the old Final Fantasies, the original Dragon Age or Dragon Age 2, Fable. I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about. Okay, I don't need to list all the names, so you have a general idea. So with those games, you would have a task, right? You would have a mission, and it would basically be point A to point B. And it was very hard for games to have point A to, I'm gonna go in a complete fucking crazy path to get to point B. It was just bam, bam. It was like a line segment, basically. Do your fucking geometry, all right? And Final Fantasy was a prime example. And because you would have a mission, you have your group of characters, you're in a town, they would tell you what to do, and then it's like, okay, go to this next town. And you would do that. Or go to this dungeon, and you would go to this dungeon. You wouldn't go, okay, well, you know what? I want to go explore this mountain range, or I want to go hunt, or I want to go build a settlement somewhere. You know what I'm talking about? So you couldn't do that in those games, because it was very, very story-rich, story-driven. It's like you were along for the ride, so to speak. In open-world RPGs, the ride is you. You are controlling the ride. You control the emotional roller coaster. You set how fast you want to go. You want to go on a loop. You want to do this. You're creating your own roller coaster. But in Final Fantasy, the roller coaster is already there. You're just in for the ride. Now, that's just a blunt version of saying it. Obviously, we fell in love with games like that, like Chrono Trigger or Suikoden, and at Final Fantasy, I'm listing like crazy classic JRPGs right there. And it wasn't just that, like Mass Effect 2, Mass Effect 3 was linear, but it was like so story driven. It's like such a cinematic experience. It was amazing. Metal Gear Solid 5 is open world, and I consider it as an RPG. And there you go, same thing, big responsibility. I haven't beaten that game, but because it's really fucking long, and that's my fault, because there were other games that came out and I wanted to play those, and I left Metal Gear Solid 5 behind because I didn't put dedication into it, as much as I should. Even though I was playing the shit out of it, it wasn't enough because I didn't beat it. So when we're going back to talking about classic role-playing games, you would have your overworlds, right? And you would be able to explore the overworld, but it was just like, there was like only so much you could do, right? It was the same thing you would do in every town. You would go in, talk to people, buy things, talk to your party members, but you wouldn't. Certain role-playing games that were linear had, mini games and stuff, right? That's what kept mini games were like the saving grace of games being too suffocating, just shoving story down your throat, and you're just like, oh, I gotta go fucking here now. But that's why they had the mini games, to sidetrack you. Those side quests and mini games were like the best way they could have made it open world, because all those role playing games had overworlds, and that was fucking great, because the overworlds were always pretty cool to remember. But they were overworlds. They weren't like a third person or first person perspective, and the land was yours to explore. You know what I'm saying? This was like more of like a top down view, to where it was all the places you could explore were minimized and small, shrunken. So if you walk over a town, your little sprite's like giant compared to the town, but when you click the town, you go into it and it's huge. That's basically how it was back in the day, because with the less tools you have, the more creative you have to be, and that's just the sacrifice they had to make. Nowadays, it's, unless you're Witcher 3, which is great with story and exploration and open world aspects, then you're fine. You're fucking fine. And a lot of open world games are doing a great fucking job with keeping it story rich, and just everything else that's open world, great. But if you want to just play pure story and get straight to the point, and you don't want to waste all your fucking time just exploring one land, you know what I'm saying? Then play those old school, role-playing games. So, yep, fucking open world RPGs are good and bad. And just like, classic role-playing games that are linear are good and bad. So it's mainly based on your opinion, to be honest. I mean, obviously, every podcast I've been doing is based on opinion, in my opinion especially. And I love open world games because it's just so immersive, I mean, just let me know what you guys think about that, in the comments below. Like, do you think open world RPGs, and like, since a lot of games who used to be linear role playing games, they're starting to go open world, do you think that's smart for them to do, or do they think they should just keep with their traditional, formula of what made their franchise so great? Or are you guys, you guys want to be surprised, basically, you want something new? Because this generation, we're fucking spoiled with fucking games left and right, and it's really hard to impress us anymore. Oh man, back in the fucking day when I played Chrono Trigger, yeah, I was impressed from first fucking blink I took from fucking the shit out of that game. Yeah, it was that bad. And like playing Final Fantasy 7 and 9 and then 10 even, I mean, oh man, those games are just, well, I used to think 7 was great, but not so much anymore. But I'm making a video on that, and that'll come up way later. But yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. So let me know, let me know what you think about that. And what's another thing, one last thing we can talk about for open world? I mean, open world RPGs, they still take a lot of skill and a lot of talent to make something that inviting and alluring, because open world reminds you of, kind of in a way, your life, like real life, when you step outside and you just see all these variables. It's just you're having a sensory overload. Your mind is just telling you, okay, that's dangerous, this is dangerous, I gotta drive to work, don't hit a car, I'm hungry, I need to eat. So open world games are kind of like that in a way, because they're like a step closer to reality when it comes to exploration and role playing. It's just anything open world will remind you of real life. So when you're playing these role playing games with open world aspects, there's like this like survivor instinct in you, right? That probably kicks in, and you're like, okay, there's a fucking bear over there. It's probably gonna whoop my ass. And of course, it's a video game. It's gonna have a level, and you're gonna have the right weapon or something. But still, you still fear it, Or hey, there's like this giant mountain range. I don't know how to get up it. I might fall off and break my back, and my character might die. Stuff like that. And you couldn't do that in Final Fantasy. Or Chrono Trigger. You didn't have to worry about falling off edges or any of that shit, because it was linear and you had point A to point B. I mean, you could see it. You could see all the danger and stuff, but it wouldn't allow you to basically go up a ledge or climb a mountain or any of that shit. It just wouldn't allow you to do that. Speaking of open world, I guess Zelda could be considered open world, because, I mean, from the get-go, I don't find Zelda linear at all, because you were able to explore it at your own pace. So Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask had quests for you to do, but at the same time, I mean, it was third-person open world. And people can consider Zelda as a role-playing game itself, a RPG adventure. So, Yeah, so we've been playing open world games for a while, and maybe we just see it now being so overused or used because it's 2016 and it's the fucking internet and people would just bitch about anything or write about anything nowadays. Back in the day, we just got what we got and we were always fucking excited. We were surprised from the get-go. We weren't spoon-fed information like how it is now. Like, holy shit, there are just articles beyond articles, spoilers, just discussing about what I'm talking about, basically. Open world and old school, new school. You know how it goes. But yeah, so yeah, that was something good to talk about. Uh, you know, reality check, haha. So yeah, guys, this has been a podcast from NikoTheLegend, aka Nicholas Sorokin, and I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you like the podcast, thumb it down. You know how it goes, same old song and dance, good sales pitch. And yep, we just discussed if open world RPGs are good or if they're good or bad. And if I haven't mentioned other things, like I said, fucking let me know. So, have a great night. The time is 12:32 a.m., 9/6/2016. Good night, planet Earth.